people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000.
Good morning and welcome to Open Conversation on Atlantic Television Network. Open Conversation is the network's flagship political platform through which trending political news, events and stories are discussed with stakeholders. Through these conversations, Etienne uses political talks about specific issues, party system and actor to explore hope and engender positive impact to the society. Today on Open Conversation, we'll look at these stories. Rivers crisis, developing stories. Court strikes out Service Commission law by Amehule. Amechi has lost 70% followership in the state, APC says. Governor Fubara in firm control of governance, Wuke says. On Plateau State, reps to intervene in House of Assembly crisis. From there, we'll go to Adamawa State. Pick female running mates, finitary to local government chairmanship aspirants. And on politics, I support local government autonomy, Governor Abdul Razak says. Do not go away. When I come back from this break, we'll delve right into the show.
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social economy, sports, and documentary. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Jack us up and down like this now.
I hope nobody carry belly.
Why you ask, oh?
Because this road where they see, so it no guarantee safe delivery.
We just dey vote for government, but we not get good governance.
At all.
Roads so e no dey, light o usa, the infrastructure nko e come turn to be forbidden fruit for the city.
Corruption, well everything. Hello?
Hello, madam. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Mrs. Ayeni. I am calling from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
Okay. Okay, I've been expecting your call.
Madam, remove this your phone from loudspeaker.
No vex, now my phone be like that. Hello?
Are you there?
I hear, I'm hearing you.
Yes. We saw a copy of your invoice for computers, printers, and laptops.
Yes. Are you working on them now?
Ma, the prices you quoted are way too high now.
Madam, sorry, please don't call.
We found the laptop you said is 1.8 million naira for 600,000 naira.
Hello?
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator, she said 3,000 naira is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites. Which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Representing people.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Joining me on Open Conversation this morning is Living Gifton Jamala, ESQ, a private legal practitioner. Good morning.
Good morning. You're looking beautiful this
Thank you, and same with
morning.
you. All right.
Thank you for having me.
And before we go into the stories, I want to take this opportunity to wish everybody, our viewers, a happy Democracy Day today. And moving on to the story, the River State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt has struck out Section 3 of the River State House of Assembly Service Commission law as amended in 2024 by Martins Amehule and 27 others from River State laws. The presiding judge, Justice Dagogo Jack, ruled that the law was inconsistent with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which grants the governor the power to appoint the chairman and members of the executive bodies in the state. Justice Jack further noted that the same law also gave the governor the authority to appoint the River State House of Assembly Service Commission. The judge also restrained the governor and the Attorney General of the state from enforcing the law as passed by Amehule and 27 others. What is your immediate reaction to these judgments?
I think when I saw the headlines yesterday, or when the feelers came in, that that particular section of the law has been set aside by the court, it was not strange to me because I expected it. When they amended the law trying to impute in Section 3, removing the powers of the governor to the River State Assembly Service Commission law, removing the powers of the governor to appoint and arrogating that power to themselves. I was one of those who spoke against this. I also wrote an article on it talking about we practice a constitutional democracy and we have separation of powers. The functions of the executive are clearly spelled out in Section 4 of the Constitution, that of, Section 5. That of the Assembly, both National, State Assembly as the case may be in Section 4, and the Judiciary in Section 6. So if you look at the functions of the Assembly as provided for in Section 4, it talks about making of laws. Now, executive functions, implementing those laws are vested with the executives. In the circumstances, the president, the governor, as the case may be. Now, for you to appoint a law, removing the powers, ousting the powers of the governors as provided for in the Constitution, which is a ground norm. It is the same Constitution that gave you powers to legislate on some certain items as provided for in that same Constitution. So you cannot make a law to override the provisions of the Constitution. And that is why if you go to Section 4 of the Section 1.4 of the 1999 Constitution, it says any other law made that is inconsistent with the provisions of the law, that is the Constitution, to that extent is null and void. So I was expecting it, but for political reasons, some persons were somehow happy that those laws were made. So it's to me, as an active practitioner, I do not see something strange. It is just an affirmation of the true letters and spirit of the law.
All right. Now, you also spoke about, you said some other laws. This was the one that, so far has been said to be inconsistent.
Yes, with respect to this particular River State House of Assembly Service Commission law. Yes.
Now, arrogating powers to themselves, like you said, removing the powers of the executive yes. And then arrogating it to themselves, being the legislature
yes.
in the state, is an aberration.
Yes, it contradicts the intent and spirit of the 1999 Constitution, as clearly provided for as separation of powers, which we have earlier alluded to. The separation of powers seeks to limit you within the functions as provided for by law. So therefore, you cannot see the judiciary
because the job of the legislature in this particular context is
yes.
the governor makes the appointments and the legislature does what?
The governor,
the
governor makes the appointment subject to the confirmation, ratification by the legislature.
So in this context, or by the reason of the law that has been removed right now, the implication would have been that the legislature would be the one
who
to
nominate,
make the
yes,
and also ratify.
Yes, which they hurriedly did some weeks ago. Some weeks ago, some names were paraded, and sadly, some legal practitioners were also included in that list. And I said, those practitioners who made themselves available for the mockery of the process of law should be called to face disciplinary committee of the NBA, because you cannot make yourself. If they were misdirected, as a professional, you should direct them. Because even when, like you mentioned, just that law, there is this local government law also, which is presently a matter at the Court of Appeal, because the court has also set aside those provisions. Now, where they again remove the functions of the governor.
They extended the tenure.
They remove the functions of the governor, and where the governor fails to act, arrogating it to themselves to appoint a judicial officer to do so. What they
did by that law was to extend the tenure of the local government chairman.
The extension of that tenure would become effective upon a judicial officer activating it. It is not automatic.
Now, isn't that law meant to stop the executive from actually usurping the powers of the local government? to stop them and to ensure that at least we enjoy democracy.
Yes.
True democracy within the state, at the state level, to ensure that at the expiration of local government tenure,
yes,
elections are made instead of appointing caretaker chairman, as the case may be, whose expiration will end at 3 months, and then, you know, it's a circle.
Yes.
And when you look at it critically, most executives, the governors in this instance, usually use it as as a way of settlement for
yes,
their
I will take you back to Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution that talks about, for legislation that has to do with the governing of its local government administration. That section only institutes a third tier of government known as local government, area councils. Now, but fail to provide laws that will regulate, just like regulate the federal government and state, fail to provide laws that will regulate the local government councils, gave that powers to state assembly members as to making of the laws
for the local government.
Yes, for the local government. That being said, it has not removed the functions of the governor.
Now, what in this instance that you're talking about, what is the function of the governor with respect to the local government elections of local government chairman?
The function of the governor is very simple. It's to periodically, before the expiration of every tenure,
of the council,
activate the processes that will call for election
through the state INEC.
But there are no law is unique in its way without having exceptions. There are exceptions to every reasonable law. Now, it is that exception that they somehow, in order to serve maybe a private or primitive motive to themselves, brought again powers that usurp the powers of the governor. I will tell you why. Now, if you say where there is failure to hold election prior the expiration of a particular tenure, then the local government chairmen who are acting in that capacity duly elected by resolution of the House, if the governor fails to swear them in by resolution of the House, they will appoint a judicial officer, in the circumstance a magistrate, to take the oath of office to swear in those local government chairmen, and which period shall elapse within 6 months. Now, it is a function of the governor to activate the process of election. All they need to do is to set out a law mandating, making it mandatory that before election ends, 3 months, 4 months to that tenure.
There is a law to that effect.
There is that law they amended. Yes, that law is the law they amended.
That's the window for campaigning and all that for the council.
No, that law they amended is a law that gave rise to bringing someone like Wanosike, third tenure caretaker committee. It's where the governor, where it is impracticable that there is not possible for election to be conducted, the governor shall appoint a caretaker committee to run the affairs of the local government for a period of 3 months, renewable for another 3 months, as may be determined by the governor. So it is that particular provision that they remove to bring in to insert this new provision that are talking about 6 months elongation of tenure. So those powers are not within their powers. Their own is strictly legislation. And so when it comes to enforcement of that laws, it is the executive that has the powers to enforce those laws. So whenever you remove the powers of the executive to give it to yourself to enforce, it means we are going back to a system of government where one man sits, makes the laws, enforce it the way it pleases him. So it is...
But you are also aware that Akwa Ibom State also did the same thing.
Asking that the governor...
They extended the tenure of their local government chairman for 6 months.
If Akwa Ibom did so...
Apart from Akwa Ibom, another state has done that
If Akwa Ibom did so and is not challenged, that is their own business. Because if I have a right and it is infringed upon and I refuse to act, that will not stop you if your right is infringed upon and you fail to, because I refuse to enforce my right.
Now, you said that the legislatures, it behoves upon the State House of Assembly to make laws for the local government in the interest of the local government, correct?
In interest of those local government.
Yes. Now, and if you have a situation where, according to the Constitution, there is supposed to be elections after the expiration of the tenure of this council chairman.
Yes.
And to all intent and purposes, it's clear that elections are not going to hold.
If I would refer you, if I should,
don't they have the right to actually extend the tenure?
I am not.
They are not stopping. They are not stopping the governor from doing his functions. Actually,
they have. By the implication of those sections, they have.
Why can't they go? The question is, does that even need to apply if the governor is to follow the Constitution?
The Constitution says, if we permit, I think we should read it. The Constitution said under Section 7, a system of government is hereby guaranteed. Now, when we're talking about state, but fails to bring out laws also that will regulate how that system that is hereby guaranteed should function, delegated that functions to the State House of Assembly. It is the State Assembly that created the laws that talks about election of the local government. But that law must not to be seen as going contrary with other provisions of the Constitution. And so the mere fact that they have removed the functions of the governor alone, I'm not saying the extension of that 6 months.
Now, if a governor refuses to hold elections, cancel elections, as I went due,
yes, what
makes you feel that the governor, even if it's extended and is expected to do the same, what makes you think he'll do it? Because apparently, the governor in this instance not funding the state INEC.
We don't have that knowledge.
Hold on. We are speaking constitutionally. I am not making reference to River State.
Okay.
Yes. These are issues that arrive within states in Nigeria. So it's not particularly River State. So the conversation cuts across board. That's why I brought in Akwa Ibom State as another example. Yeah. So now, if the state INEC is not funded, and it's clear that there will be no elections, wouldn't you say that the governor himself is also breaking the law?
It is a lacuna that the Constitution
because he has
created.
Immunity, he can break it.
It is the lacuna that the Section 7 created, that these persons in governance are leveraging on. And that is why, remember, there is a pending suit at the Supreme Court, where the federal government, through the Office of the Attorney General, is asking for a direct interpretation of those provisions vis-a-vis other provisions. So the Constitution failed to, if you look at the place of governor and president, talking about the election, it made a periodic period, but fails to do so also in the local government, asking that state go ahead to direct. So if you were giving me the power to direct how I run a family or an organization, and I decide not to follow a particular route and say, look at the NDDC, for example.
The Section 7 of the Constitution.
Look at the NDDC, for example, where the Act talks about the creation of the board. And all of a sudden, a president from nowhere started running sole administrator of the NDDC. And some persons went to court and said that that particular exercise is unknown to the law because the NDDC, the Act creating the NDDC made specific provisions as for the appointment and of these principal officers for the running of the administration. But Section 7, like I said, failed to. If you can, just go ahead and read it.
Section 7, yes, it says, the system of local government by democratically elected local government councils is under this constitution guaranteed.
Yes.
And accordingly, the government of every state shall, subject to Section 8 of this constitution, ensure their existence under a law which provides for the establishment, structure, composition, finance, and functions of each
Exactly.
council.
It's okay. It is that law that the River State House of Assembly during the previous administration created under that Section 3, created room for caretaker committee. That same local government law that created the caretaker committee has been amended by the Amewule-led assembly to include a subsection which has, to me, in my own understanding, removed the functions of the governor to themselves. That is the only query. It is not whether
who swears in the judiciary.
It is
in this instance. Are they the ones swearing in? Are they the ones holding?
They have given themselves the power. No, they have given themselves.
They amended a law.
Giving themselves the power to appoint a judicial officer. They lack the statutory requirement to swear in. So a judicial officer has that function. Now, they have given those...
When you say they appoint a judicial officer to swear in,
yes.
Now, they did not say the legislature, the House of Assembly shall swear in. Did that law say that?
The law did not. The law says.
Now, who swears in? At the end
who
of the day,
appoints the persons that swears in?
Hold on. During the swearing in ceremony,
yes.
is it not a judicial officer that's
a judicial officer appointed by?
Now, it is clear in this instance that the governor is unwilling to. I mean, within the context of this law, it is clear that the governor is unwilling to hold an election for the council.
Yes.
If the governor is unwilling to hold an election for the council, how is he going to
Where there are circumstances.
Let's be real about
that is what I'm saying.
How is he going to appoint a judicial officer to swear in the same people he doesn't want to have a rerun?
If there are circumstances that warrant or that makes impossible the conduct of an election, because remember, we are speaking generally, so the issue of finance cannot be attributed to River State. There are some states that may lack the necessary finance to finance that process of an election, pending maybe when they are rich enough to conduct that exercise. If there are circumstances, it could be natural disaster that warrants or makes it impossible, impracticable for them to conduct election. The simplest thing to do in the circumstance is for the state assembly to look for other avenues within the confines of the Constitution. Remember, I said you cannot create a law that stands in opposite direction with the Constitution. But you cannot also remove a power given to another by the Constitution to yourself. That will be creating, and it is an aberration.
Your reservation with regards to that law is the fact that the legislature, the House of Assembly, has allocated the power to appoint judicial.
Yes, that is an executive function.
That's the only exception for you in that law that you feel is
that is where the law contravenes
what the law says that the governor shall appoint.
Yes, the governor shall. If the law has given the executive the powers to appoint a judicial officer to do that function, I won't have any qualms with it.
Okay.
But giving it to themselves, carrying out executive functions, it is against the intent of Section 4 of the Constitution. That is my only query with it.
Okay. Now, like I said, I want to ask a clear question. In the Constitution, was it clearly stated that the governor shall appoint the judicial officer in the process of
you have read Section 7.
What we read, let me read
it's
it
just
it's
just guaranteeing the establishment.
No, it said the government of every state. They said the system of the local government by democratically elected local government council is under this Constitution guaranteed, emphasis of the on democratically elected. And said accordingly, the government of every state shall. Now, when you talk about government of every state,
that is the question I should
is executive the government of every state?
The executive is the principal. The executive is the principal enforcer of laws in the state.
All right.
So it is the executive that will bring to effect Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution.
It says the government of every. This right now is ambiguous because it's ambiguous.
The government comprises
and anybody can build on this.
I agree. The government comprises on 3 tiers.
Yes, so it's a government.
But remember, the executive function. The executive function lies with the executive. That is the point.
The legislative
function. That is it. So we cannot see
by this law. The law did not clearly state that now you're arrogating government here to the executive.
I think the executive
That's
function.
What you just did. He said, the government of every state shall, subject to Section 8 of this Constitution, ensure their existence under a law. Under a law.
Yes, under a law. Now move to the assembly.
Which provides for the establishment. Structure. Composition, finance and functions of such councils. Now, when you say the government of every state shall, it is not necessarily the executive alone.
I agree. That is why I said we provide a law.
Every state is the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary.
I agree. They have their separate functions.
Well, according to this Constitution that I just read, I didn't see where the Constitution said the governor of every state. You see the ambiguity that people can build on right now.
My sister, there is no ambiguity there. See, remember, we have established clearly so that there are different functions.
Okay,
you also believe or you don't believe?
That's a basic
okay, now fine. In the concept of separation of powers,
yes,
they are lane. Make I dey my lane. Not day
and
a day.
We'll serve as
that is the concept of separation of powers and principles of what they call is just let's abide with separation of powers. That is nothing more, right? So the law section, as you have read, talks about creation of laws. And now, if you go to separation of powers, creation of law lies with the assembly, right? Now, we're talking about executing those laws, lies with the executive. Now, where a law is made in conflict with the Constitution, we now go back to the judiciary to interpret. And that is what the judiciary has done in the circumstance. At the creation, yes, the law gives you powers to make laws. But those laws must not to be seen in not conforming to the principles of our grand norm. That is what the judiciary has explained in the circumstance. You have the powers to make law. Go ahead and make. But when those laws that you are making are seen to be in conflict with the originator of the laws, being the Constitution, then the judiciary will step in to redirect your actions.
Okay. But then, probably this will be subject to interpretation by different lawyers. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just reading what the Constitution says when it says they should ensure the existence of the council. To ensure the emphasis on ensuring their existence.
Democratically elected,
yes,
which it has been existing.
And he said to ensure their existence.
Yes.
So it behoves the government to ensure the existence
of those
the local government,
yes,
and to ensure that nobody usurps the powers of the local government.
If you want us to go forward, if you seek my advice,
you would agree that the government simply have to work hand in hand. However,
no, that is what we are clamoring for.
In a situation where you also mentioned separation of powers and being a watchdog over each other, one arm of government decides to do what it wants, which is also an aberration of the law.
Yes.
Then the other arm of government can call them to order. Through what way? Still the law.
Yes, still the law.
Okay.
But the law you are making to call the others.
What's the way forward?
The law you are making, before I answer that question, please. The law you are making to call the other party to order is not to remove his powers and then giving it to yourself. The way forward for us to ensure that Section 7 is activated nationwide, let the Supreme Court handle what the questions raised by the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation that has to. Let's take, how is the FCT area councils, how are they run?
We'll still come to,
no.
Okay, FCT.
FCT area councils, how are they run? It is because the law regulating FCT area councils is to be made by the National Assembly. It's provided for in the Constitution. And so the period for election is also provided for. Why not also involve the other 774 local government in Nigeria to be guided by that same law running the affairs of the FCT?
All right.
Rather than leaving it at the discretion of one man who calls himself governor or a set of persons who call themselves assembly members. Right. To me, it should be clear. Just like we have clear dates for elections, clear date for...
no ambiguity.
Yes, clear date for primary, clear date for governorship and presidential. The local government, if they want to exist as a tier of government, we're talking about local government autonomy, then the persons to conduct elections...
Well, why don't we even look at the function of the state INEC? Isn't this the reason why some people are clamoring for elections of local governments to now be, within the jurisdiction of the federal?
That is the point. If we return,
so that the INEC will be funded by the federal
government,
or without the influence
of state participation.
Because they won't need funding at this point from the states.
That is the point. If we return back to what it is happening in the FCT, where the National Assembly makes laws, and it's also clear in the Constitution as when to run the election in the area councils, then we will not be needing state rec again. What we'll be needing is that when federal INEC is conducting election for governorship, House of Assembly members, they will also set date for the conduct of local government elections.
Really?
And then this ambiguity in you, according to you, let me quote you, this seeming ambiguity would have been resolved.
All right. On to the next story. The secretary of the Caretaker Committee of the All Progressive Congress River State Chapter, Chief Eric Wibani, has declared that the former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, has lost over 70% of his political followership in the state. Mwibani said besides losing his support base, Amechi has also lost 3 election cycles from 2015 to 2023, despite being a super minister and a very influential member of the former President Muhammadu Buhari kitchen cabinet as a 2-time Director General of Buhari's presidential campaigns. Chief Mwibani, who was reacting to a statement attributed to the former governor to the effect that those who left him to work with the FCT minister Nyesom Wike could not endure hunger, noted that Amechi should rather ponder on why generations of followers were leaving his political camp in droves rather than through tantrums. What is your immediate reaction to this? I mean, the bullets from River State political ecosystem is very peculiar.
Yes.
Now, what is
unique.
What is your immediate reaction to this?
I think Eric, with all due respect to him, has overblown the issue. The issues raised by Right Honorable Barrister Rotimi Amechi in his interview, as seen on the social media. I think, to me personally, I really don't call for this, all these years. But the truth be said, if we talk about political followership, then we may like to look at those whose principal means of living is politics. Now, there are those in the political circles who believe in ideology. Ideally, where we have political parties, if you look at in the US, where they have their the Congress, you have persons who believe in the ideology carried out by a particular party. So you associate yourself. If that ideology suits yours, you associate yourself with that political party. Now, if the other party, if the party derails to a certain essence, that moving away from the ideals of that ideology, you see persons quitting the political party and not immediately jumping into another platform until they see another platform that tends to sell out their own ideology. But in Nigeria, the contrary is different. The persons who are in politics, most of them are seeing politics as a profession. They have nothing doing aside politics. Therefore, how to eke out a living should come from the activities of politics. And if you're not relevant in the system, you cannot eke out a living. So that is the political structure, language I want to use now.
Isn't that stomach infrastructure?
That is basically
that
is exactly what we have here in Nigeria, and it has made itself so manifest in River State from 2019, 2014-15, where there was this division. Remember, the state used to be principally PDP,
yes,
until the PDP moved to a section of the PDP moved to APC, and we have this division now. Amechi has not conducted, not participated in an election for 3 times to set the record straight and failed. It is not true that Amechi presented himself for election and failed in those 3 times. I am aware that Eric Mwibani contested the election in his own local government and failed. Just this past 2023 election. I'm also aware. Eric Mwibani is not from the same local government with Amechi, and therefore need not the powers of Amechi to win a local government election in his own local government.
So the question would be, why couldn't he influence the elections in
it is not about, it is
to his own favor?
Yes, it is about Eric Mwibani answering why he failed.
So a case of those
or
living
maybe,
in glass house should not throw stones.
Maybe asking us to blame whoever imposed him on the people because he was not accepted by his people. So blaming his failure on a different person, a stranger who is not from your own locality.
He's not blaming his failure.
He's blaming.
He's pointing out, it's a different thing here.
It's a blame.
He's pointing out
that he failed.
No. He's pointing out that the former Minister of Transport has lost 70% of
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that point.
His political influence has dwindled.
I'm coming to that point.
So your point is that, I mean, you're trying to x-ray the person of Mwibani and also point out that what he's using against someone is also very, very much...
Is resident in his own house.
All right.
Is resident in his own house. So if we are trying to set the record straight, first I said Amaechi has not contested for election. The only election he contested was the primaries of PDP that he came out second.
He spoke about Amaechi being the campaign director.
And he won in those two elections. He won the election that is... No. He won the presidential election for Buhari in those two times. He was made a DG.
Okay.
Those ones are, the records are clear.
Yes.
The only one he contested, the only one he contested and failed is the PDP internal primaries.
Okay.
That he came out second. Same with the super minister who came out second in his, Amaechi, APC, Minister of FCT now, PDP, both of them coming out second. Kudos to them, at least for trying to pick up the form is encouraging. Now, coming to whether or not Amaechi's political followers has reduced. Some persons identify with Rotimi Amaechi not because of what they get from him financially, not because of stomach infrastructure. Some persons loved him. For the 8 years he was privileged to rule the state. He showed to a level of a reasonable extent some level of sincerity, doggedness. If you talk on administration, was one of the best you can make in the history of Rivers State. So some persons like his person alone, his character, the charisma that he has. Some persons associated with Amaechi for these things. Why some came for the immediate benefit as per the office he was holding. When he was a minister, most of these persons were around him. So politically speaking, those who are in politics or who were following Amaechi for what they would benefit at the shortest possible time, yes, they have left. But the core people who believe in the principle, the ideology, the character of Amaechi are those in the masses. And when are those masses that are somewhere not close to even the Amaechi himself. Are those masses, not those in the masses, please. Those individuals who are not close to, maybe they have not even gotten the opportunity of having a handshake with the Rotimi Amaechi. Those are persons who see the principles, who see the ideologies, loved the way he ruled Rivers State, loved the way he acted as Minister for Transportation for 2 times with the federal government. And some, for 1 or 2 reasons also, may have left because some certain actions of the Amaechi may not have been acceptable to them, but not for political grounds. There are those who are following. Even every man has 2 sets of followers, the sincere friends and friends who be around you for benefit. So those political jobbers, the political, I don't want to use the name the former governor used, scavengers, those are the ones that, yes, they have left. They are looking for greener pastures because that is where they earn their living.
Now, wouldn't those that left, the people you're talking about now, account for the 70%? Because, you know, earlier when you were building your argument, you said that a lot of people in Rivers State, yes, most of them are in politics for stomach infrastructure.
Yes.
Now, if the greater number of politicians, in quotes, in Rivers State are in the politics for their stomach, won't it account for the 70% of the people?
No. It is not true. It is not true. It will not account for. It will not even get close to that percentage. Okay. The truth is, almost everybody involved in politics, he or herself in politics, but just privileged few get to the center. Let's look the state or the local government. Now, if you want to look at the names he mentioned out, these are persons who believe that they have followership at the grassroots. It is the grassroots we are talking about. We're not talking about those privileged few who come to sit around or move in a convoy whenever you're coming to town. No, yes, those friends who come for immediate benefit are the political jobbers we're talking. The core masses, the grassroots, who believe in the principles, therefore far more than the number of persons, the actors, the principal actors you see around. When we say someone has the capacity, it is the ability to talk to the number of persons, to persuade number of persons to follow a particular direction, right? Now, if you say these are the persons that have left, and they are giving the percentage, I may somehow look back and see reasons. But to say the general public acceptance, the general acceptance of the person of Right Honorable Chubike Rotimi Amaechi has been reduced to 70% less, then I will disagree. Because that acceptance lies in the grassroots.
If you say that and you're of the opinion that, you know, the Honorable Minister, former Minister for Transport, has this enormous influence like you're projecting. Now, the question would be, I mean, when he lost the last elections, he had his anointed.
Yes.
Dakuku Peter side.
Yes, in 2015.
Who lost?
Yes.
To Nyesom Wike.
Yes.
While he was an incumbent.
Yes.
Now, he had the power of incumbency at that time.
Yes.
And he had this grassroots movement and enormous influence that you say he has within River State's political ecosystem. If he had all that going for him, make it make sense to me. How did he lose to his former chief of staff?
Well, I do not want us to.
Because
I'm not even.
These are the things
I don't
that
want us,
one would consider
yes, I agree.
in River State when you're looking at political influence.
There is this saying in our legal environment where we say you may have gotten a judgment, but you may not have gotten justice. You know that? You may have been declared the winner of an election, but you may not have necessarily won that election. Let's go back to 2015. The election that was conducted in River State was a sham. You and I know that. Even the Supreme Court attests to the fact that River State was a theater of war, but for some certain principles and policies of government, a winner has to emerge. And therefore, reluctantly gave that judgment. When Yar'Adua came in, sometimes in 2007, he considered the fact that the process that brought him was marred with irregularities. But he was declared the winner. And so declaring someone the winner in an environment doesn't necessarily mean the general acceptability of that person.
Very well. Let's still look at political influence and having the masses. Because why I'm periscoping on this is you said he had the masses. The larger grassroots following and support he has is in the masses. Let's look at the influence, someone that influenced, that has the capacity for the masses. Let's go to Imo State, for example. You would remember when Ikedion Hakim was the governor of Imo State, and at some point, you know, he fell out with a lot of political actors, not just that, you know, but when there was a time in Imo State that he gave the order for the police to beat up a priest, and Imo State was predominantly Catholic. It was a problem, and there was an arrogance he had, you know, in relating with the people. During that time, Rochas Okorocha was more of a philanthropist, you know, doing a lot of great things for Imo people, free education and all of that. Yeah, seemingly.
Perceived great things.
Apparently. And, you know, during the elections, power of incumbency played out in Imo State. And despite the enormous votes in favor of Rochas Okorocha, Ikedion Hakim emerged as the governor. Guess what happened?
The masses revolted.
They revolted and shut down Imo State. I recall that time that in Mbise and Obo, those areas, and yes, Ngopala area as well, some women went naked, half naked. They stripped themselves, you know, from their torso, and they revolted. The students of Imo State University, the students of Federal Polytechnic Nekede, entered the streets. There was a mass revolt, and INEC had to call for a rerun. And the election was something else. After that elections, Rochas Okorocha emerged as a winner, landslide. Not only did Rochas Okorocha emerge, now look at what happened. You know, elections in Nigeria is not by the face, is by the party logo, right? So everybody, in fact, both the councillors, the local government chairman, senate, as long as you belonged to Dr. Charles Okorocha's party, the elderly women, the illiterates, they were just, all they know was that logo. They were chanting that logo as they were just printing on that logo. So everybody that was fortunate during that time to run for elections under the same party as Rochas Okorocha won. It was landslide. Even the people that did not campaign, but they didn't have the money. They just were like, okay, there is space. Let it just be that. That didn't even print posters. Won as a result of the influence one man commanded among the parties. Isn't this a clear? I'm presenting a clear picture of the influence of the masses. If you have the support of the masses,
I see. I want to see what happened in Imo State. What happened in Imo State? It can be likened to a religious revolt against our Hakim. It was not more of the person per se. It was the religion used to undo.
Also had other people.
I agree. The sentiment of the religious.
Even in River State, are they not using religion?
The acceptability of religion in our elections in River State is far different from that of the East, or let's say even in the North. You cannot use religion in River State to determine who wins an election.
The difference,
especially because it is predominantly Christians.
I would disagree with the religious argument because this is the reason. It wasn't just Rochas Okorocha that contested. In fact, let's
come to national light. Let's use P2P.
We will still come there. We are looking at about 3-4 contestants. All of them were strong contestants, very strong. But one man commanded the attention, the love of the masses. One man influenced the masses at that time.
Yes.
Because he was perceived to have the interest of the masses at heart at that time. So it wasn't just about religion, no. It was about because if someone else had equal influence over the masses, probably it would have been a close call. But nobody could come close.
Let me cut you short.
You said Amechi
has
like the influence.
He had that
of
influence.
So let's see the scope.
Yes, I said he has that influence and still does till now. Let me tell you.
How come he lost?
I am coming.
I mean, that should play out. People should have revolted.
I'm coming. He lost the election, not for himself, but the person he supported. Remember, Rochas Okorocha in Imo State also lost the election when he was to hand over. Where we have PDP taking power from the APC.
Again, he has fallen out of favor with the people that he must say.
There are circumstances. Let me tell you. Rotimi Amechi contested the election in 2007, the first time as governor. What happened at the PDP primaries and the key leg factor that Obasanjo brought in is personal to him. All transpired at the court. Same Rivers and Imo, Supreme Court brought in Rotimi Amechi. In 2011, he contested for an election and won again. Right? Now, we are talking from 2014, 2015, where he was living. Now, if you are talking about acceptability or being at the corridors of powers to influence negatively on the procedures of governance, that you cannot ascribe it to the person of Amechi. What happened in Bayelsa State in 2019, when David Leon emerged the governor in Bayelsa State and the Supreme Court judgment came in, even in Imo State, that brought in, what's his name in Imo State, the present governor. How did the people react? In Bayelsa State, how did the people react? But the law spoke, whether it was right or not. It is the law that must be enforced. So you cannot say because I'm in the corridors of power and you want me to influence negatively the process. That is not the person of Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi. So becoming in power, being in power, and losing an election. Remember, I said he has not contested an election. What transpired in Rivers State election?
His anointed Lord.
What transpired? I agree. What transpired in Rivers State election in 2019, where Awara came in, where election was suspended for a period of times, only for INEC to reconvene to announce the result that they said were smuggled into their commission. Is that the kind of victory, or that the kind of transparency you want the system to run? That is not so. That is not true.
You cannot take away heavy influence.
When you talk of influence,
when you say that when Amechi was the governor, he did not influence outcome of elections.
I wouldn't know, because I never acted for him.
I would disagree, because there were reports on ground as to the level of voter intimidation. And if you recall, I think it was was it Ikwere? No, not Ikwere local government. The local government where Imechi comes from.
Is Ikwere local government?
Ikwere local government. Yes. One of the recs had to cry out. She was held down. And funny enough, I was an election observer in that election, and I was in that local government. I was in there. Everybody was shut out. All the observers, everybody was shut out. Ballot boxes were taken in, and nobody could access it. Until luckily the woman was able to cry out. That election in that local government was cancelled. Go back and do your research. I was there. I was a live witness. So let's not delve into.
Can those actions be attributed to be sponsored by the governor then?
Let's not delve into all of that. The truth of the matter remains that in Nigerian political ecosystem across states,
yes.
It's not limited to Rivers State, by the way. Across states, incumbents use their power, and that is why most analysts and most people will tell you this one has the federal might. That's where the balance came from: federal might, power of incumbency, and then the strength of the masses.
It is that federal might and power of
these
incumbency.
Things play out. You can't take it away.
I agree. It is that federal might that brought in negative activities in our political space.
And power of incumbency.
The power of incumbency I would call it two roles. First, incumbent, it is closer, the governor, the activities of the local government, they are closer to the people. That was why in 2023, we had over 200,000 essays in Rivers State. Right? About 3-4 months with the elections, we have over 200. That is incumbency, using state resources because the calculation was that if we have these 2,000 essays in quote, vote for us, we have secured 200,000 votes already. And therefore, whatever thing that we're going to do.
The same also applied, probably in a very different light, when the governor, when the Minister of Transport had the power of incumbency.
I agree. So for that of the state can be used.
So to some extent, you would also agree that Mbani also, you could say, you can't fully take it away that, to a large extent, his statement that probably the Minister of Transport has lost a large percentage of followership.
Yes, I am not saying he has not.
And influence is there.
Persons like Mbani was working for the governor. The persons like the Honorable Minister was working for the governor. Senator Magnus Abe was working for the governor. And other persons.
Now, if I may ask
you, these
Jamala,
persons leaving the Amechi's camp, yes, it has been a minus. But it is the percentage. It is the percentage. It has whittled down a little.
Okay.
But the percentage is where my grievance lies.
It is not up to 70%.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. We are over exaggerating these things and not to make a cheap point. Give us facts that are real. We know he has lost some political relevance in the space.
Yeah.
Same with other persons.
Of course.
But the percentage of 70 is what we are disagreeing.
It was not substantiated.
There was nothing to show for it. But if Eric was waiting for an influence from an outsider to win an election in his local government, then he will likely not get it, even if he follows.
I'm sure Eric, this point will be well taken by him. But
yes.
I may ask you very quickly before we move on to the other story. Weaponizing this stomach infrastructure within the political firmament, what's the way forward? Because it's very apparent that politicians will not stop the stomach infrastructure movement.
Yes.
Because to a large extent, it's a weapon for them.
Yes, it's a vital weapon.
On one hand, weaponizing poverty. On the other hand, weaponizing stomach infrastructure politics.
It is the deliberate actions of those who do not mean well for the society to underdevelop the people, so that you will be you will be depending solely on them to survive. A man who has no source of income but is dependent on a particular person has his freedom sold out to that person. That person directs his morning, afternoon, and evening. That is why they have failed to develop the country. And that is why everyone now is suffering. Because if government's policies are driven to the extent that me and myself as a private individual, the environment is friendly for me to carry out my activities and eke out a living for myself, I do not bother a politician. In the morning, I cannot wake up in the morning as a man, go to a politician's house, sit at the gate, wait for when they come out to say boys are loyal. Now, where you give someone 500 naira, 200 naira, and tomorrow the person says, please, I want you to go, they will not be pleased. Go and vote this person. And you cannot say no because your tomorrow 500 naira is dependent on the action that the person is asking you to take. So that is the weapon the politicians, the evil politicians, are using against us. The way out is very simple. Do we have persons in government, or do we have persons willing to come into government to remove this set of ill-thinking politicians who never meant?
How is that going to be possible when you say, do we have persons? Don't you think Nigerians, there are persons well able to do that, but they do not have the financial capability? I mean, this is a situation where governorship nomination forms are pegged at 50 million and council, local government chairman, their forms are pegged at 10 million by political parties. Isn't that a way of sieving out people with well-meaning intentions, but
we have not carried out the right campaign.
All right.
As citizens, we are somehow contributing to the actions of these persons who are somehow taking us for granted. If we begin to carry out the right campaigns, first, citizens will refuse vote buying. Two, our women will stop receiving wrappers and 2 cups of rice 3 times in a year, or maybe once in a year. Towards the election, they come and give you 1 custard. Once we stop that and vote for sincerity of intentions and purpose, we will get it right. But if we do not stop that, he said some women will say, even if we don't collect, they will still manipulate their way. It is not true. Something happened in Rivers State that it was alleged that Rivers State persons or youth came out to resist federal might. You remember, during the 2019 election, where the former governor boasted of how Rivers people came to resist federal intimidation. I don't know where that came from, but if that were to be... Let me even take your scenario, what happened in Imo, where some persons, the state was shut down because of... Even in Abia State, this 20...
Alex Oti.
Yes, Alex Oti. What happened, what happened because the right person found herself in the system and decided to do it right.
Alex Oti has every financial ability.
It was not the financial.
Abia people already were tired.
I agree. It was not the financial strength of Alex Oti that made him end that ticket or that victory.
The point
it was the right woman.
Alex, yes, the
right woman, yes, who refused to be intimidated, to compromise the procedure. So had that woman compromised the procedure or the system, whatever we are saying today will only be exercised in futility.
So we are also looking at the systems.
We're looking at systems.
The institutions stronger and independent.
Institutions don't work on their own. Institutions work with persons.
Okay.
We're looking at stronger persons to man institutions. Then our institutions will be strong.
And then the masses also.
Fine.
Doing their own part.
Masses, you must build for you to grow. for a nation to grow, or if for a man to make a living, you can't sit down in your home to say, I will sleep from morning till night, manners will fall. First, you must go out. If you are not going out, you must be working on a system that ends you, or you must be working on if you are skilled in any of the crafts. So you must take step. Our citizens must take step. Bear the hunger. Refuse the 1 cup of rice, which has not helped you anyway. Refuse it. Take the right decision. We saw something like that something close to that in the previous elections, where some persons stood their grounds and voted for their conscience. But what played? The institutions, because we do not have the right persons.
Manning the institutions.
The institutions manipulated the system.
Right. The House of Representatives on Tuesday called on the leadership of the National Assembly to intervene in the crisis surrounding the swearing-in of new members of the Plateau State House of Assembly. Recall that the crisis erupted after the swearing-in of some members-elect, while others were being denied the opportunity, despite meeting all the legal requirements. The Court of Appeal had also nullified the certificates of return of 16 sitting members and ordered the issuance of new certificates to the new members. The call by the House followed a motion by Honorable Ahmed Idris Wase during plenary in Abuja. Moving the motion, Wase highlighted the crisis in the State Assembly, noting that despite meeting legal requirements, some members-elect have not been sworn in, while the others have been sworn in by the Speaker. According to him, it is a denial of democracy and a threat to security in the state. He therefore urged the National Assembly leadership to intervene and ensure equity, fairness, and justice in the Plateau State House of Assembly. He said that the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly has refused to swear in all the new members, instead demanding that they submit letters of resignation with accompanying court affidavits as a condition for swearing in. What is your immediate reaction?
I sympathize with those 16 members who are finding it difficult to find their way to the assembly, despite coming out victoriously at the Court of Appeal. You know, sometime 2019, if memory serves me right, a similar thing played in Edo State, where some persons, when the governor proclaimed the assembly, at a very unusual time of the day, and some persons were sworn in by the clerk, and then the speaker elected. And since that assembly ran its tenure, the remaining members were not allowed to come in by way of swearing them in by the speaker. The laws are clear. It is the speaker upon the proclamation of the assembly. Once the members sit, elect a speaker, the proceedings of that assembly is on the speaker, until that speaker is changed by a 2/3 majority of votes by the members of that assembly. Now, these 16 persons are finding it difficult because the speaker has refused to do so. I think what they should be doing, yes, the law provided for where there is a crisis in the state assembly and impracticable for them to carry out the business of lawmaking. The law provides that the National Assembly, by a resolution of not less than 2/3, can take over the affairs of that local government, House of Assembly. But the circumstances that were around that action, it was never contemplated that issues like this will arose when the law was being made. So issues like this will call for rethinking or tinkering with the sections that has to do with the National Assembly taking it. But if I were to advise them, it is not the State House of the National House of Rep that can remedy the situation.
Okay, what's the way forward?
The way forward is simply for them to go to court and come asking for a mandamus.
Okay.
Now, remember, the Court of Appeal decision is to the effect that certificate of return be issued. There is no direct provision or order of court that these persons be sworn in. Now, with these legal documents on their hands, certificates of return, and the decisions of the Court of Court, they can institute an action compelling the Speaker.
You call it an
order of mandamus, yes, to perform his action.
That's to mandate.
Mandating, yes, it's mandatory.
Force the Speaker to swear them in.
The Speaker is not under any immunity, so once that order is gotten, he will be compelled by law to do so. And where he fails to do so, The law has a way of dealing with persons who go contrary to the decisions of court.
I'm talking about the law. In Nigeria, I mean, even institutions have been flaunting court orders.
Yes.
Do we go to EFCC or do we go to DSS? I mean, even elected officials have been flaunting court orders over and over again, and there are no consequences.
There are those.
What makes you think that if they get this order of mandamus, like you said, it's going to compel the speaker to swear them in?
I speak with the intention
when there
that
is already a precedent of flaunting court orders.
I speak with the impression or with the mindset that we operate a constitutional democracy, and therefore where no one is above the law. I do not have those.
Can we speak considering the Nigerian reality?
Yes.
Because there is a clear difference when you say constitutional democracy, granted, and Nigerian reality.
The reality in Nigeria, yes, some persons claim to be or have been presenting themselves to be above the law. It's because of the system somehow do not respect the rule of law. But I do not see that the capacity or the lights of the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly to the extent that a court order is given, he will flaunt it. I do not see, because when
a lawmaker cried out.
Yes, our democracy.
He won at the court,
yes,
and the court said certificates of return should be issued to him, which was already done, but the speaker refused.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, the speaker refusing to carry out his action. See, there are ways of activating these things. If you are not informed, you may not know the right procedure. It is not by crying out. There are those who have activated those procedures and they have found themselves reaping from the system.
Okay.
Now, if there is a process to compel the speaker to perform his job, and in this circumstance being specific, swear in these so and so persons having satisfied the requirement of the law, where he fails, then we can now come back to cry that although an order was given, he has failed to, because for what the speaker is acting, it is political. Political in the sense that if he swears in these 60 members, he will lose his seat. And so it is that fear that has compelled him not to take out, to carry out his functions properly. And it's an impeachable offense for him not to have done so. So it is only the court that can set right.
So now the thing is, for the speaker, it's an existential crisis that he's facing.
Yes.
If he swears them in.
Yes, the majority will take over the day. That is his fear, and he's not far from it. But what can remedy? Who can remedy? The governor can remedy by way of executive influence. But that influence will not come because it will be to the detriment of the governor to have the 16 persons take over the functions of the assembly. Will bring in a crisis, because look at what is happening in Rivers State, or what happened in Rivers State some months ago, where the assembly is on a different route with that of the executive. Ordinarily, they should be working hand together.
Might play out in Plateau State.
In Plateau State, if this 16%, yes, because unless they may have a rethink of their actions, because when it comes to developing the state, where you come from ordinarily should not bother you. Political party, where you're coming from, should not bother you. But what should bother you should be the interests of the state. So if I'm called upon as a lawmaker to make laws, if the executive brings a bill that has to do with the interests of the people, I should jettison political parties' affiliation, jettison where I'm coming from, and look at the merit of that particular bill. It is not to the advantage of the governor that the governor constructed how many number of roads. How are those roads beneficial to the people? Was I an instrument in achieving those things? That should be paramount.
Well said. Now, talking about the people with respect to the crisis going on in Plateau State, you agree with me that whatever plenary they are having, certain constituents are not being represented,
not represented
at all.
Yes.
Now, where do the people fit into in the grand scheme of things? Because apparently, either the people are unaware of the fact that they are not being represented and they don't have a voice in the government, or there is a lack of knowledge and clear apathy to the politics in the state. Because, I mean, apart from these lawmakers crying out, the people can actually make the speaker do what is right, because they are not being represented.
Yes.
So if the people mount pressure, the speaker would have no choice but to swear in their representatives, because those people, the lawmakers who they've not sworn in right now are lawmakers by the reason of the mandate of the people they are represented. And this appears to always be the case over and over again. And you see, when there are issues in the State House of Assembly, the constituents are unaware. Either they are unaware or they are even fighting they are fighting for parties that do not even represent their interests.
I agree. There is I will not use the word apathy. I will rather use the word nonchalant attitude of the masses. It is not.
Do they even know?
It is not. Yes, the knowledge, where the awareness is not there to a relative extent. Then the nonchalant attitude to those who are even aware is also there. Then, if you look at it directly, members, upon being elected, the Constitution only provided for a duty. It is not obligatory. It is only a responsibility, social responsibility, that I go out on election day and vote. It is not obligatory in the sense that there is no penalty if I don't go out.
Yes.
That is why we have this apathy in our political environment. If the law can make it mandatory for every adult to have his or her permanent voter's card and participate in an election, these things will be different. But having carried out that constitutional responsibility placed on you by going out to vote, now the onus is now on the elected member to carry out his own assignment as voluntarily given to him by the constituent. Now, the masses are not represented because the person we appointed by way of election to represent us, the speaker has refused him coming. Then what are the windows available in a democratic system of government? Can a protest bring this to limelight? Shutting down the assembly, going to protest at the assembly quarters, will it make the speaker to swear in these persons?
Do you think it will?
I do not think so, in the light that the speaker is acting, because if they shut down the assembly, remember, they can reconvene in any environment where the governor pleases. The governor might even ask them to come and sit in government house. Security, and no one is willing to lay down his life for someone to go in there. The person that that are beneficiaries to these things may not even come out, their family will not even come out to support them in the protest. So this knowledge must be made known. But yes, if we are to be in a civilized society, ordinarily these issues wouldn't be coming out. But even though they do, the masses will have a role to play. The person involved also have a role to play. But the bulk of the blame, the bulk of the actions lies with the representative to take the appropriate action.
Which is the order of mandamus.
Which is the order of mandamus.
So now, in your opinion, the reps actually do not necessarily have anything to do.
They do not. The coming of is more of advisory.
Emergency, correct?
Not state of emergency.
No, but when reps will
National Assembly in the circumstance, most times it lies with the Senate. Senate takes over the actions of the Assembly. Not necessarily where there is
so in this place, what do you think the reps would do in this?
Yeah, it's more of an advisory role where they will, yes, by way of emotion, move, debate over it, and if the House agrees that they write the speaker, they will do so, but it is not compelling.
It will not, so the speaker can decide to disregard.
Yes, can act, and I believe there are so many persons who have given that advice for please swear in these persons, but he's trying to protect his himself, his office, and maybe to a relative extent that of the governor. Because if the governor is not in support of his actions, I do not think these things will fly. Yes.
Right. The members of the People's Democratic Party in Adamawa State, who are aspiring to contest for the position of chairman in the forthcoming local government elections, have been charged to nominate women as their running mates. The Adamawa State Independent Electoral a timetable for the council election next month, fixing July 13 as the voting day. At a stakeholders meeting in Yoruba, Amadu Finitri, who is traditionally the leader of the PDP in the state, said the PDP should continue to recognize the contributions of women and accord them their due attention. All right. On this, appointing women as running mates.
Yes, when I saw this headline, I somehow took my mind back to those who are feminists, I call them feminists, who are asking for 40% affirmative rights and inclusiveness in all government activities, 80%. It is not, the Constitution makes it clear, abundantly clear, that the same rights a man has politically.
Okay.
Now, we are talking about deputies. Deputies are just mere spare tires. What makes the chairman different from, what makes a man being a chairman different from a woman? In Bonny local government, we have a woman who is the local government chairperson by default of the Constitution. Not that she was. The elected chairman died, and by law, she became the chairman. So that is, and she has been doing well. From records I can gather, or I've gathered so far, she's doing well. It is not about asking. Are there willing women who are also craving to serve? Because when you say appoint, you can appoint an unwilling person, and the person will not be desirous of carrying out the functions of that office to the best that will benefit the masses. So rather than appointing, I would rather seek that women should go out, fight for it. You get it, you will not be termed as being appointed. We have some women in Nigeria, severally, who have been at the political limelight, political parties' primaries. The women who went there to vote refused to vote for them. They voted for other men. I agree, women should
Sarah Jibril, for example.
Yes, contested for election. Some have been coming out for governor. Look at the River State, BTC Tubo came out to contest governor under the Labour platform.
Irony is that when you look at
the strength of the women, the population,
of the women,
yes, and the population.
And when you talk about the youths, you also consider the female population in the youth.
Yes.
So when you look at the strength of the women, you know, women are supposed to carry the day anytime, any day. When a woman comes out,
but that unity of purpose is not there.
To carry the day. Well, maybe we should look more into the participation of women in politics.
Yes.
Right. And again, also the mentality in Africa, particularly Nigeria, the mentality of entitlement. As a woman, I'm entitled to this. And now it's time for governance.
Yes.
The question will be how many women are speaking out, critiquing the government, or, you know, encouraging the government, as the case may be, but being a voice in daily governance in the state. You agree with me that, I mean, the number of women who are vocal, it's microscopically infinitesimal, actually. So, but however, during elections or close to the campaigns, suddenly you now see them in civil society organizations. You see them coming out from different arms to cry of women marginalization. And does it make sense?
To me, the issue that has to do with awareness, willingness to participate, I don't know whether culture has affected our women who always see that the man will take for.
That's another
I don't know if that is what is. So if you go to the streets, you see that women are interested in discussing politics. Rather than a woman sitting down to look at the political happenings in the state, they rather sit down and watch Telemundo. Which will bring no benefits to them, apart from the few minutes you laugh. The knowledge is not there, and truly speaking, for us to move on, let there be clear education on these women. The man ordinarily cannot take force at all times. When it is time for a woman to go, support the woman and not ask that I'll be deputized, a woman deputized. We have 23 of them deputizing in River State. What is the impact in their various societies that they have brought in as deputy local government?
These are the issues. Fingers crossed. We'll still bring you up to date as the issues develop. Gifting Jamala.
So thank you very much for having me.
It was a pleasure having you.
Same here.
You can always follow us and stay connected to us on all our socials, Facebook and YouTube. Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. On Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Do not forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching. I am Ogu Laurentia Choma. Transition News comes up next.
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
POS operator. She sent me down the